Was gonna hold off on making this video, but Miami Dolphins are pushing it out the door. So we're gonna talk about how we could fix this cap space. What is up, Finn fans? Got the calculations done. I got the names on here of people I'd cut. I got the names on here of people who could be restructured, who could be traded. What are we going to do with X, Y, and Z? And how are we going to create cap space? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler here. The Miami Dolphins conservatively, just without the cap going up, without the plus 30, plus 25, whatever the new cap space is going to be, conservative low number can be at $29.974 million in cap space, like that. And that's without mortgaging the future. I'll say it one more time. Without mortgaging the future, bare minimum, what could we do here and there? The Dolphins could be at $29.974 million in cap space. That's the green, that's the positive, and that's before the cap has gone up. So add another 30 to that. 59 million, add another 25 to that, 54 million. So conservative. How are we going to do that? Well, you're going to have to stay and watch the video. But real quick, I do have to shout out today's sponsor. That is Clean the World. Clean the World, fantastic organization. Talked about it a ton with Sean Seipler, who does some absolutely fantastic things for people of need, whether it's third world countries, people who are suffering from natural disasters, people who are homeless, all of these people that he has hit up and helped. Just an absolute beautiful, beautiful human being, and cannot tell you how much that he does with these kits that he puts together, with these bars of soap that he repurposes from hotels, from people who don't want the soap. They throw it away. He comes in, repurposes them. He cleans them. He does his thing. But he absolutely does fantastic. And the amount of kits, the amount of people he's helped, I'm trying to, here you go. Over the last, because I was like, I want to give you the exact number for the things he's done. Over the last 15 years, they've sent 88 million free bars of soap to children and families and mothers across the United States and to 127 countries across the globe. That is 88 million bars of soap he has helped over 127 countries. Go check them out, cleantheworld.org. Let's jump into this. I gave you the teaser, shouted out a great organization and a great friend of mine. Let's jump into this. Miami Dolphins right now are sitting at, and we will go, I like over the cap because they're very quick with updating their cap space. So we'll go over the cap. But as you see here, the Miami Dolphins right now are sitting at a 5.437 cap space. They were lower. They were at about 11 something million or 12 million over the cap space. They're at a -5. So they're in not bad, not like 54 million, not 30 million, even 14. I got a video talking about the AFC East and all the teams and everything. I got a video to talk about the Bills, the Jets, and everything, their cap space, this, and that. Got a video plan on that. But they're a little bit better with the 3 moves that they made, saving about, I think I said 7 million in today's video. So they're sitting at about $5.4 million in cap space. So how do we get, Doug, from negative 5.43 to your number of $29.97 million in cap space? That is a net positive of about $24.5 million. Well, first and foremost, I am cutting Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey, we cut him, will be a savings of $1.975 million. A lot of these cuts that I'm going to talk about, if they happen now, are not big fat savings. You're not going to cut anybody, and it's going to jump up off the board. Because if you look at Tyreek Hill, and we will look at Tyreek Hill's contract, next year they cut him. The amount of money that they save off of cutting him from the jump is $36 million. Like, season's over. We didn't make the playoffs, or we did, or whatever. And he does whatever, whatever, let's say it happens. Season's over. It is February what is today? 15th. Miami Dolphins cut Tyreek Hill. Boom. $36.3 million in cap space, like that. Nothing I'm going to talk about right now is going to be anything crazy, anything ginormous in cap space. But if we do move on from Jake Bailey, it's $1.975 million in cap space. Jake Bailey was not a good punter for us. At spurts in the season, he did help us pin them in the 20-yard line area. But outside of that, nothing really good, nothing really crazy. I'm moving on from Jake Bailey. Now, Alec Ingold, you would save $1.695 million. That one, I don't know how I feel about if they were to cut Alec Ingold. I do like Alec Ingold, and his cap hit isn't that crazy, nor is it that big that I would sit here and be like, oh, we got to get rid of Alec Ingold. It's a 4.8, rounded up to $4.9 million cap hit. It's not crazy. Nothing that, we would really hurt from, but again, it's a 1.695 million savings if we did move on from him. Let me kind of show you what I'm looking at. I'm gonna move myself. Come up to the top. Hello, everybody. I'm up here now. So again, Alec Ingold, round up 4.9, savings 1.69, right? So there's that. Then you have Blake Ferguson. Come down here. Again, it's not a crazy cap savings. None of his money's guaranteed, but where has he been? What is going on? What's the off the field issue? Why was he on non-football related injury, yada, yada, for the whole season? I like him. I like Blake Ferguson. I like that he's a draft pick. He was a reliable long snapper for us. We could use that 1.17 mil. I'm going to move on from him. And then obviously not a fan of him. Julian Hill, we could save 1.3 million by moving on from Julian Hill here. And I'm doing that. I know that it's Mike McDaniel's pet project and he loves to keep his pet projects, but I'm moving on. So those are the cuts, right? But then also you have guys like Teron Armstead. And if you move on from Teron Armstead immediately, it's a $4.3 million cap savings, right? And that $29.98 million or $21.97 million cap space we would get would be from moving on from Teron Armstead immediately and just banking on $4.3 million. I'm just going to round that up. So those are those cuts there, right? So that is increasingly getting us out of the negative just by 1, 2, 3, by 4 cuts, we're in the positive. We have like $1 million in cap space. And again, you have to remember the cap is going to go up. It's going to, like I said, I think last year they estimated the cap would go up by 15 million and ended up going up by 30 million. And this year they had the Christmas games on Netflix and they had all these things. So I'm gonna make an educated guess that it's probably gonna go up again by 30, which then again, if the Dolphins just cut Bailey, cut Ingold, cut Blake Ferguson, cut Julian Hill, and the cap goes up, they're sitting at 30 million in cap space. Cool. You can go out, do what you need to do, grab some pieces for the now, and then worry about the draft. But the Miami Dolphins can also add more money. Bradley Chubb, Austin Jackson, and Zach Sealer. You can restructure all 3 of those guys' contract, and by restructuring all 3 of them, you save in total $24 million. And that is where a big chunk of that $29.97 million in cap space comes from, by restructuring Chubb, Austin, and Sealer, and you get $24 million in cap space. Now, I am giving Zach Sealer a new contract. I would restructure him, but I'd also give him more money on the back end. I think he is a very good piece for this defense, and he obviously has shown he can be very reliable. So I'm giving Sealer not only a restructured contract, but somewhat of a new one to lower that cap space this year from Sealer, which it's not that crazy big, but it's about $12.4 million. If we can lower it by 7 million, which this estimate, or 8 million, which this estimate is saying, huge, would definitely help us. Austin Jackson, he is due for 13.5 million, and Bradley Chubb is due for 28. If you move on from Bradley Chubb off the rip, it's only a $1.3 million cap savings, so that's not real. Like, they might as well keep him on the team. If the dead cap is 27.4 million, you might as well just keep him on the team and see if he can stay healthy and really help us. But if you can restructure him because he has no more guaranteed in his contract in the aspect of I'll show you. Of security essentially in his contract. Then, you know, scratch my, you see we're at his out point essentially. So if we cut him now, it's not a big savings, but if we cut him as a post June 1st, and I have that number for you guys, it's a 19.6, again, I round up, $19.6 million cap savings. So restructuring those three guys, cutting Jake Bailey, Alec Ingold, Blake Ferguson, Julian Hill, and Teron Armstead would put us at $29.97 million in cap space. And that is without touching Tyreek Hill. That was without restructuring Tua Tagovailoa's contract. Because again, you restructured Tua's contract, and I will talk about that in a second. You were stuck with him for another 2 years at minimum. Just by going with that, $29.97 million. And again, I will repeat, if the cap goes up by, say, you know, bare minimum, say, you know, the Netflix Christmas games did nothing or whatever, inflation, yada, yada, we get $15 million. We're looking at sitting at about, what, 40 something million in cap space. Still a lot of money. And it's still something you could definitely help build this team and build for the future. Now, say we stay at that $29.97 million, right? But we make moves for June 1st. The Dolphins, if they trade Tyreek Hill after June 1st, save $15.97 million. If Teron Armstead is cut post June 1st, it's a $14.99 million cap savings. And if Bradley Chubb is cut post June 1st, it's a $19.55 million cap savings. So after June 1st, say we are like, Chubb, we're going to make you a post June 1st designated cut. Teron Armstead, we're going to make you a post June 1st designated cut, which would drop that cap number savings down to about $25 million. Again, you add the 15 bare minimum, you're still sitting at $40 million cap space. And boom, after the draft, somebody really wants Hill, they trade for him. After June 1st, if they did that, again, I'll repeat it if you want to tell other people, you cut Chubb June 1st, cut Teron Armstead June 1st, and you trade Tyreek Hill June 1st. I don't think they'll do it. The Miami Dolphins after June 1st would have $50.51 million added to their cap space. $50.51 million added to their cap space. So they would have their $25 million from the other stuff, from like probably less. Let's put it at about $20 million from restructuring Austin Jackson, Sealer, cutting Blake Ferguson, Julian Hill, Alec Ingold, Jake Bailey. You're sitting at about $20 million. And then you get the 15, so you're sitting at $35 million in cap space. You got that cap space. You do what you need to do in free agency. Come June 1st, you made your pre-designation, and then you trade Tyreek Hill. Say we go into June 1st with $10 million in cap space. Boom, the Miami Dolphins would have $60 million in cap space. Are they going to do that? No. I think the likely thing that happens is they're going to keep Bradley Chubb on the team, so they will restructure. They'll try to restructure him, Austin Jackson, and Zach Sealer together. Again, that $29.97 million in cap space makes sense that they do that. Teron Armstead, I don't know what they're going to do. They could move on from him. So if it's just Teron Armstead and they trade Tyreek Hill after June 1st, then it's only $30.96 million in cap addition, which is still a lot. Again, say you spend a buttload of money, you go into June 1st with 10 million, boom, you're sitting at 40 million. Like, it's still a big chunk of money if the Dolphins decide, you know, Tyreek is being too much off field. Like, he's racing a track star now. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? You get hurt this whole, you're just screwing the Dolphins over. So say something happens and post June 1st, they trade him, and then they make that post June 1st designated cut for Teron Armstead, $30.96 million. So the Dolphins could very easily put themselves in a very good cap situation. And again, say they don't do anything with Teron Armstead and Tyreek Hill. they could still very easily have $29.97 million in cap space before the cap goes up and not hurt the future by making those moves. So a lot of people are worried about the Dolphins cap space. Don't be, because very easily the Dolphins could be sitting at almost $40 million in cap space. Now let me play devil's advocate here. Say they do touch Tua Tagovailoa's money, which don't touch Tua Tagovailoa's money. If they did restructure him, and I've talked about it in a previous video, it saves $19.1 million in cap space, but you're stuck with him for 2 more years versus next year you can move on from him and save cap space. Then the Miami Dolphins would have $49.1 million in cap space. And that is, again, before the cap goes up. So say the cap goes up by 15 million, bare minimum, they'll be sitting at around $65 million in cap space come the start of free agency and can do whatever they want. So I'm talking about this, I'm making this video because I know a lot of people see that we moved on from Kendall Fuller and everyone's like, now we need a corner. How are we going to afford a corner? And, you know, we move on from Raheem Mostert. We have 2 running backs on the roster. Aha, now we need a running back. What are we going to do a running back? I showed you the needs of the team in that video. You can go back and watch that one. And I show you how our defensive line is like bones, like bare minimum. How are we going to do that? First off, this draft for defensive linemen is deep. It's like real deep. Like I was seeing Reason and Neil talk about it and how deep it is. And Neil was saying, you got to come out of this draft with 2 defensive linemen. And I agree 100%. They got the money. They can get the money. They can get the cap space. They're not in a situation that the Saints are, 59 million, or the Browns, 38 million. Now the Browns are in 38 million because of Deshaun Watson's contract. The Saints are in 59 million because they keep kicking the can down the field. 54 and 30. They're not in those situations. And then in 2026, the Dolphins have 9 million in cap space. But again, if they do these post June 1st stuff, they can carry over that money into the previous year. And then also, you know, we're sitting at 9 million next year in cap space. If the Dolphins cut Tyreek Hill, it's $36 million cap savings in an instant. So it's cap can very easily be manipulated. And the whole point of me making this is kind of give you my prediction on who I think would be cut next. Again, Jake Bailey. I'd like to keep Alec Ingle, but we'll see. But Jake Bailey, Blake Ferguson, Julian Hill. And then you'll see a lot of restructuring. And then we got to figure out what's going on with Teron Armstead. I don't think a lot of craziness is going to happen. I think Kendall Fuller being the craziest thing that happened because of the amount of dead cap that is going to kind of follow him in that cut. But the Dolphins kind of seem like they're like, look, we're not, you know, we're different now. We're going to make different moves. And if you're injured, we got to decide what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. But again, I'll reiterate one more time. Don't worry about the cap space. It could be manipulated. It can be moved around. And there is a guy like Sealer who deserves a contract extension that will help the cap space. And then again, Bradley Chubb and Austin Jackson can very easily be tweaked to give us 24 million in cap space in an instant, which would, even if they just did those 3 and they didn't touch anyone else, the Dolphins are just sitting at 19 million in cap space before the cap goes up. So we're fine. Don't worry about it. Take a breath. But this upcoming week, we're going to start talking targets. We're going to talk about who we should re-sign, looking at the free agents. I'm going to talk about the difference between unrestricted and restricted free agents. I'm going to talk about a lot of things to kind of get you all ready for free agency. I got a lot planned for you. I'm going to break down the AFC East, each team's situation going into free agency, going into the offseason. I got a lot planned for you guys. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you Monday unless news breaks. Then I'll see you later today or tomorrow. But like usual, stay classy. Life ends up.